April 30th, 1943. A dead body washes ashore on the coast of Spain. The corpse is wearing a British Royal Marines uniform. Chained to the belt of his trench coat is a briefcase containing top-secret documents about the Allied invasion of Europe. Spanish authorities recover the body. They notify the Germans. Nazi intelligence examines the documents, and Hitler makes a decision that costs Germany the Mediterranean. He moves entire divisions away from Sicily, reinforces Greece and Sardinia, leaves the real invasion target defenseless. But here's what makes this extraordinary. The dead body isn't a British officer, it's a homeless man who died from rat poison in a London warehouse. The British dressed him as a Royal Marine, forged an entire identity and floated him into enemy waters with fake documents. And it worked perfectly. But why use a corpse? Why not a real spy? The answer reveals why a dead body is more convincing than any living agent could ever be. Before we start, drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. This helps the algorithm massively, and I love seeing where this content reaches across the world. And if you want more deep dive World War II intelligence operations like this, hit subscribe. All right, let's get into it. By early 1943, everyone knew the Allies were coming for Europe. The invasion was inevitable. The question keeping Hitler up at night? Where? Would they hit Sicily, the closest target to North Africa, or Greece? Maybe Sardinia? What about southern France? Hitler couldn't possibly defend every inch of coastline. He had to make a choice. Pick the wrong spot, and the Allies would pour through unopposed. So the Allies needed to make him guess wrong. But here's the problem. How do you deceive someone who knows you're trying to deceive them? You can't just announce, "We're invading Greece." Hitler will assume the opposite. You can't send a living spy with fake documents. German intelligence will torture them, interrogate them, break them. The spy confesses or dies without providing supporting details. One inconsistency under pressure and the entire deception collapses. But a dead body can't be interrogated, can't confess, can't contradict, can't break under torture. When German intelligence finds documents on a corpse, they can only interpret what's there. They can't ask follow-up questions. And that's exactly what British intelligence wanted. Control what the enemy finds. Control the story the evidence tells. Make them reach your conclusion without ever suspecting deception. A dead body tells exactly the story you want and nothing more. The operation had a code name. Operation Mincemeat, deliberately macabre, turning a corpse into ground meat. But executing this required solving three impossible problems. Where do you get a body? How do you make it believable? And how do you deliver it without getting caught? The answer came from the man who would later create James Bond. The idea came from Ian Fleming in 1939. His Trout Memo listed 54 deception ideas, including using a dead body stuffed with fake documents like bait for trout fishing. In 1943, Naval Intelligence Officer Ewan Montague made it real. First problem, the body. It had to look like it drowned. Right age, right build. No obvious disease that would raise suspicion. Through London coroner Bentley Purchase, they found Glinda Michael, age 34, Welsh, homeless, dead from rat poison in an abandoned warehouse on January 28, 1943. But here's where the plan became a massive gamble. Rat poison causes liver failure, not drowning. A competent autopsy would immediately spot the inconsistency. Yellow liver, wrong internal markers. If the Spanish pathologist looked too closely, the operation would collapse. So how did it survive? Three factors. First, decomposition. The body was frozen for 3 months, then spent hours in warm Spanish water, obscuring the original cause of death. Second, a rushed autopsy. The Spanish pathologist wasn't a forensic expert. Small coastal town, not a major medical facility. Third, British sabotage. The British vice-consul, Francis Haselden, was present during the autopsy. He urged the examiner to finish quickly, citing the corpse's smell and the heat. The gamble worked. The pathologist declared death by asphyxiation through immersion in the sea. Drowned. Exactly what they needed. Not because it was perfect, but because decomposition, incompetence, and interference prevented anyone from looking closely. The imperfection made it believable. Second problem, the identity. They gave him a complete life. Major William Martin, Royal Marines. But not just a name. They built his entire existence. Fiancée named Pam. Love letters written by MI5 clerk Jean Leslie with emotional specificity and real London locations. Photograph in his wallet. Receipt for an engagement ring. Bank overdraft notice, theatre ticket stubs, keys to a non-existent flat, a letter from his father complaining about his spending. Every irrelevant detail made him real. One problem. The frozen corpse looked dead. They couldn't photograph it for the identity card, so they used a living substitute, MI5 officer Ronnie Reed, who looked similar enough. They photographed Reed in uniform wearing borrowed rings. The ID showed a living man. The body was dead. German intelligence never knew. Third problem. The documents, not official orders, too suspicious, instead a personal letter from one general to another, casually discussing operations. The letter mentioned Sicily as a diversion. Real targets? Greece and Sardinia. The genius was the double bluff. The letter explicitly mentioned Sicily, framing it as a feint the Allies were using to fool Hitler. This let German intelligence discover a deeper layer of planning. They thought they were outsmarting the British. They were being led by the nose. Now they had to deliver it without getting caught. Transporting a corpse to Spain without decomposition was a nightmare. They dressed the body on April 17, 1943. The feet had frozen solid. Wouldn't fit in boots, they defrosted them with an electric heater. Intelligence officers standing around a corpse with a space heater, waiting for frozen feet to thaw enough for boots. The body went into a steel canister filled with dry ice. On April 19th, it was driven to Scotland by Jock Horsfall, a famous race car driver so notoriously short-sighted he refused to wear spectacles. At one point, he drove clear over a roundabout he couldn't see, nearly crashing Britain's most important secret weapon. The canister was loaded onto HMS Seraph. Only submarine commander Lieutenant Bill Jewell knew the truth. On April 30th, 1943, at 1:30 a.m., HMS Seraph surfaced off Huelva, Spain. Huelva was chosen because the local Spanish intelligence officer was a German agent. The body had to be found by someone who'd notify Berlin immediately. They inflated a life jacket around the corpse, secured the briefcase with a leather chain looped through the belt. Rigor mortis wouldn't hold a wrist chain. Lieutenant Jewell read Psalm 39. I will keep my mouth as it were with a bridle, while the ungodly is in my sight. Even in deception, they gave Glinda Michael dignity. A homeless man who died alone got a military burial at sea. They pushed the body into the water. HMS Seraph submerged. Jewell sent the signal. Mincemeat completed. Now they could only wait. A Spanish sardine fisherman found the body that morning. Spanish authorities contacted the British vice-consul. But before returning the effects, they did exactly what the British hoped. They photographed everything. Haselden, the British vice-consul, pushed the autopsy to conclude quickly. The Spanish pathologist declared drowning. Spanish intelligence photographed the documents and sent copies to German intelligence while returning originals to the British. The Spanish played both sides perfectly. When the documents reached Hitler's desk, something remarkable happened. He believed them completely. The letter said Sicily was a diversion. Real targets were Greece and Sardinia. Hitler already suspected Sicily was too obvious. Now he had secret British documents confirming his bias. He thought he was being clever. One person saw through it. Benito Mussolini insisted Sicily was the real target. He was absolutely right. Hitler overruled him. Admiral Dönitz recorded Hitler's words. The Führer does not agree with the Duce that the most likely invasion point is Sicily. Hitler trusted a dead homeless man over his own ally. He gave immediate orders. Reinforce Greece. Move divisions from Sicily. Send Rommel to coordinate Greek defense. German troops that should have defended Sicily were sent away. On May 12, 1943, Brigadier Leslie Hollis messaged Churchill, "Mincemeat swallowed rod, line and sinker." The fishing metaphor was perfect. The trap was set. July 10, 1943, Operation Husky. 160,000 troops, 3,000 ships, 4,000 aircraft, the largest amphibious operation yet. Only 2 German divisions defended Sicily. Entire divisions were in Greece, waiting for an invasion that never came. Even as Allied troops landed on Sicily's beaches, German command held back reinforcements. They still believed Sicily was the feint. The real attack would come at Greece and Sardinia. Mincemeat worked perfectly. The campaign lasted 38 days. Allied casualties were lower than projections for a heavily defended Sicily. By August 17th, Sicily was secured. Italy would fall next. Mussolini was deposed. The Mediterranean belonged to the Allies, all because Hitler believed a dead homeless man was a British officer. On May 2nd, 1943, Major William Martin was buried with full military honours in Huelva. British and Spanish officials attended. Glinda Michael, who died alone in a warehouse, got the dignity of a military funeral. The Times of London published casualty lists on June 4th. Listed among the dead, Major W. Martin, RM. Even British newspapers reported his death as real. Hitler never admitted he'd been fooled. Even after Sicily fell, even after German intelligence realized the deception, Hitler maintained Sicily was always expected. His pride wouldn't allow him to admit a corpse had outsmarted him. Operation Mincemeat became the model for Operation Fortitude, the massive D-Day deception. Phantom armies, fake radio traffic, all built on Mincemeat's lesson. If you build a detailed enough fictional reality, the enemy will believe it. So why does a dead body work better than a living spy? First, no interrogation. You can't torture a corpse into confession. Second, perfect consistency. The story is frozen. Documents and personal effects align because they were created together without pressure. Third, believability. A courier dying in a plane crash with dispatches. Plausible. A spy carrying invasion plans. Suspicious. Fourth, psychology. German intelligence thought they'd gotten lucky. Found documents by accident. That feeling of luck made them trust the intelligence more. If a living spy had been captured, they'd assume he was planted. But finding documents on a dead body? That's fortune. People trust luck more than deliberate intelligence. Fifth, Spanish neutrality. A living British spy in Spanish waters creates a diplomatic incident. A dead body? Tragic accident. Spain could notify both sides without choosing. The corpse gave Spain deniability while giving Germany access. A dead body can't confess. Can't be broken. Can't make mistakes. Can't create diplomatic problems. It tells exactly the story you want, and nothing more. That's why Operation Mincemeat worked when a living agent would have failed. It deceived Hitler personally. Moved divisions away from Sicily, reduced Allied casualties, opened Italy to invasion, established deception as viable strategy. And it gave a homeless man who died alone the dignity of a hero's burial. In life, Glinda Michael was forgotten. In death, he changed World War II. That's why the Allies used a dead body to fool Hitler instead of a real spy. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think using Glinda Michael's body was ethical, or did the Allies cross a line? And if you were German intelligence examining this body, what would have made you suspicious? Drop your answer in the comments. I read everyone. If this was valuable, hit like and subscribe for more World War II intelligence operations. Thanks for watching.